Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here at 3TR here to give you my review on the ending of the Planet of the Apes reboot trilogy, this one being titled War of the Planet of the Apes. Now, this movie was directed once again by Matt Reeves, who returns from Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And without giving away too many spoilers, because I would highly recommend you guys see this when you have a chance, or see this as soon as you can. This movie takes place after the events of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and obviously after Koba's attack on the human facility in the follow-up on the previous installment. Caesar and his apes have pretty much been forced to live in the forest, and they're being hunted down by military forces. And when they're found out, they've decided that they need to find a new home to live in peace. However, a tragedy happens with Caesar, and let's just say it puts him on a path of revenge, which forces him to kind of leave his apes in order to go off and take his own vendetta. However, something happens with his apes, and then it is up to Caesar in order to rescue them, while also finding a way to escape himself and survive, while a giant military force is on their way to possibly wipe them all out. Or at least that's what the movie would like you to believe going into it. Now, I would just like to say this. This is a fantastic film. This absolutely lived up to all of the hype. This is probably one of the best endings to one of the all-time greatest trilogies of all time. And that's really hard to say, because when you have trilogies like this, it usually follows a path of the first installment is good, the second installment builds on top of that, and is usually the best installment, but when you get to the ending, it kind of falls a little bit short. But I'm happy to say that War of the Planet of the Apes does not do that at all. In fact, I would probably say it's the best out of all three of them, and I think it does. I think the credit for that really goes to the script, the performances, the directing, just everything about it. Now, I think the things that obviously stand out the most is the performances from all the characters. I think Andy Serkis once again does a fantastic job with his portrayal of Caesar. And I said this in my review of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I believe 3 years ago, that I believe that he should be given some credit and should earn some awards, because he is really giving it all in his performances. I mean, you may think this is all just CG, but the expressions, his body movement, everything about his performance as Caesar is acting, and I think it should be acknowledged. Another thing that I also thought was really well handled is the antagonist in Woody Harrelson. Now, some might think that he is a little bit generic because he is this kind of misguided, corrupted colonel who believes that he needs to wipe out the apes, or in this case kind of use them for his own purposes because of things that he has done in his past. And he wants to give off this impression that he is doing this for the good of mankind, and that he has been through some really terrible things and has had to make his own sacrifices, and he wants Caesar to understand it. And in fact, they have this really interesting moment where they both sit down, or at least have a conversation, and Woody Harrelson's character acknowledges that Caesar is pretty important, but he doesn't care about that because he has his own agenda. Another thing that I also really liked is the character of Bad Ape. I can't think of the actor's name, but everything about him was very entertaining, very comedic at times, but also had a lot of heart and really brought some of the more tragic moments of this movie. If there was anything that I could say this movie had in terms of a flaw, it was just one particular scene involving a character. The character that was involved in this scene wasn't the problem. As I was looking at it and how the scene played out, it just didn't make sense that it played out the way that it did. And I don't think it hurts the movie at all, because the outcome of that scene was very significant, but how it played out in the moment just seemed to throw me off for a bit of a loop. But I quickly got over that enough. And I'm happy to say that this was probably one of the few movies that gave me an ending which I did get a little bit emotional. Not enough to cry, I'm really good at holding that back, but I did get emotional at the end, and I felt this was an absolutely fantastic ending to a great trilogy, and I highly would recommend it. And this is, without question, a serious contender of movie of the year. In fact, I'll say this right now. There is only one movie that I think could top it this year, and it comes out next week with Dunkirk, which is ironic because the last time a Christopher Nolan movie went head-to-head with a Planet of the Apes movie, it was Interstellar versus Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and I gave Interstellar the slight edge. However, I'm not sure if that will play out next week. All I know is that next week, for sure, my movie of 2017 will be decided. It will either be this or it will be Dunkirk. But going back to this, if I could give War of the Planets of the Apes a rating, I would absolutely give it my highest rating and possibly the first A+ of this year. I think I've had a couple of A's, but none of them have been A+. But this is without question an A+ movie, and I would highly recommend you see it. Definitely see it multiple times if you can. If you like my movie review for War of the Planet of the Apes, feel free to like, comment down below, and please subscribe to check my future movie reviews. And please tell me your thoughts on War of the Planet of the Apes if you've seen it. And like always, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.